Raspberries are some of the most delicious and easiest to grow fruit that you can have in your vegetable garden. But there's also some complexity with growing and pruning and harvesting them that you might have heard of. So there's the autumn fruiting, there's the summer bearing, there are pruning techniques, different trellises, all of that. Well, I hope to make it a little bit easier to understand. I'm going to introduce my two trellises that I have here in the garden, how I use them, and also a type of raspberry that I have growing around the back of the house that's suitable for any size garden, but especially container gardens, and it needs no trellis at all. This is my H-frame raspberry trellis, and it's called an H-frame for obvious reasons. We've got some H-frame wooden pieces. They're staggered along the bed, and connecting them are just really thin wires. I've got one at this level, up at the top, through the middle. I don't tie any of the canes, the raspberry canes inside, to these wires. Their sole purpose is to just kind of gather the canes inside and to keep them upright. I have quite a windy garden, and so this helps to keep them from not getting flattened. Now, the only type of raspberry that I would grow in this structure is autumn bearing, so fall bearing types of raspberries. And inside here is Joan J, my favorite raspberry. And the reason for that is how autumn bearing or fall bearing raspberries grow and how they produce. So you can plant the bare root plants or even potted plants the winter before. They won't have any canes at that point, but they will grow these fresh new canes that spring, which you can kind of see behind me right here. They'll grow up to a certain height, and then late summer is when they produce a really big harvest of berries towards the tops of the canes. And then what we do is we just cut them all down in the winter. They regrow the next year. It's so easy. If you did leave them without pruning them, they will fruit again the next year, but more towards the lower areas on the canes. So this is what we call a prima cane type of raspberry. And you can get different colors. So you can get yellow, you can get red raspberries, you can get ones with thorns, you can get ones without thorns. But that's basically the growth habit and the reason that I use this trellis. I have full instructions on how to build this type of a trellis, which I built originally at the allotment, and it has lasted all of these years. This is the exact same one. The only difference is that I brought it to my home garden and I've given it a bit of a paint, and it's going strong. Summer fruiting or summer bearing raspberries not only fruit a little bit earlier on in summer, but they have a different growth habit. The fresh new canes that they grow in spring, you typically will not see flowers or berries forming on them that first year. What happens instead is that you have to let them grow, overwinter those canes, and then the next year they start blooming and producing a crop. So we say that they fruit on floricane wood, so second year wood. And as soon as they have fruited, that's when you can prune those canes out. It's for this reason, the different growth habit, that we tend to use a different type of trellis for growing summer bearing raspberries. We have to manage the canes more and make sure that we're pruning out the right ones at the end of the year. And for that reason, the traditional type of trellis that we use for summer fruiting raspberries is T-shaped. So it's a T-shaped piece of wood with wires on either side. We've developed this V-shaped one, which does the exact same thing. So the idea is that you tie the first year canes at the end of the summer into these wires at the side, and it holds them apart so that the new growth can grow up through the middle. It makes it easy for you to walk along the sides to pick the berries, and then at the end of the year, you prune those canes out, reach in, grab the new growth, pull them to the wires, and then tie them in preparation for the next year. We built this particular trellis a couple of years ago, and I'm still trying to get my summer fruiting patch established. I think this year we'll see the first berries, and then next year and hopefully the year after, we're going to see much bigger harvests. You can see that we've got a piece of wood here that's angled, one here at the side, and we've got a couple of pieces of wood here in the middle, and it's a really sturdy structure. no pieces of wood are going to fall off, and it also has these kind of props just at the end to make sure that it doesn't lean in or out. And then the wires themselves, they're not in use at the moment, but at the end of the summer, all of these canes growing in the middle, I'm going to be bending them in and tying them in. And then that makes space for all the new growth to come up through the middle next year. The last type of raspberries that I grow are dwarf raspberries or miniature raspberries. They only grow about 18 inches, which makes them perfect for small gardens and growing in containers. And the other great thing about growing in containers is it keeps them constrained. If you've grown raspberries before, you know they have a tendency to throw out runners and pop up all over your garden in some cases. So this keeps them nicely fitted into a container. This is a large pallet planter that I built, and will keep them productive as well because they'll stay in here. I can fertilize the top with compost, keep them well watered. I've got these here inside the greenhouse just to give them a little bit of an earlier start. These are also prima cane types, so they also produce flowers and berries on their first year wood. And you can see that there are tons of little flowers here. There was a bee in here earlier pollinating them. So I can expect to have a pretty good harvest in here from next month into July. And being that they're so close to the ground, these are perfect for children as well. So if you have kids and you like to pick berries, this is a really great option. This particular one I got from a British seed company called Thompson & Morgan, but I'm sure that there are miniature varieties available in the United States and elsewhere. So in short, there are two main types of raspberries. Ones that fruit earlier in the summer, those that fruit later in the summer to early autumn. And they have different growth habits, which means that they need different types of trellising, different types of pruning. Autumn fruiting, you can prune anytime pretty much in the winter. And if you leave them unpruned, they will produce a small crop the next year. With summer bearing, after they fruit, they basically die the canes and you just trim them out and then repin the new growth and allow them to overwinter and produce berries the next year. And then there's easy types of raspberries like those miniature raspberries. The variety is called Yummy, and it's a prima cane, so easy. You can trim it when you want. You don't have to do much other than give it a nice mulch of compost, and it will produce berries every single year. If you've got any questions about raspberries, about growing them, anything like that, leave me a comment down below. And if you want a little bit more information on planting raspberries, I have a video that you could watch next. It's mainly to do with planting them in winter. And I also have a vintage video that I'd like to share with you that gives you so many more berries that you can grow in your garden. I made it almost 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, so you can see the allotment and get a little taste for what my old garden used to look like. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.